Totino's is a pizza.
It's a pizza roll also, right?
Yeah.
Like $1 pizza.
Tostitos?
Yes.
No, I just came from dinner. I'm not hungry. I'm just asking what
Tim,
you...
what do you want?
I'm good, man.
Are those?
He just want to
I'm
know what
good.
chips he has on
I'll
hand
be-
just because.
I want to snack in like an hour.
Yeah, I had Chinese for dinner, so in 30 minutes I'll be hungry.
Okay, this is you got it.
All right.
Why you're here?
So I was
doesn't
recently
sound good.
showed this video at work, which was super good timing because it was kind of fed into the topic that I was thinking of a little bit. So we have this video and then a couple questions on it in the survey, and then another video with a couple more questions, and then after that I'll kind of introduce the general theme. As I was telling these other guys, so 3.5 weeks ago my mom came, and then my brother moved in, and then I also had a really big project at work that was additional to my normal job. So this is really slapped together at the last minute. But I hope that we can still get a good conversation out of it because it's something that I've thought about off and on for a long time. But we'll see how coherently we can get a conversation around it, as I've never tried to put it to pen or anything like that.
I think the greatest of people that have ever been in society, they would never hurt people deploy in ways that don't fully tap everything they do best.
Deep down in your heart, you know that you're not living to your potential. And life is now something you're just getting on with.
I look around at people so often, they're so unhappy, and I think the reason is that they don't ever win the game of life. It's a game they feel like they can't win, like they're always losing. And the reason, number one, is they don't know the purpose of the game.
That's why people wake up in a rut. Their life has no purpose, no meaning. They're not morning people. I'm just not a morning person. You're not a morning person because you're not living in your purpose. See, you hate waking up because you waking up and you don't know reason. You waking up and you don't have no design in mind.
Just stop and think about what's most important. Think about why you're here. You are here for a reason. There's something for you to do and be here.
Take a look at what burns on the inside.
You've got to find what you love.
What burns in your heart is important for you to pay attention to because it never goes away.
Start to realize there is something inside of you that is never ending. There's something inside of you that is unchangeable. And that's the part of you that knows what is right, what to do, and why you're here.
The only way to be truly satisfied is to love what you do. That's what all matters of the heart. You'll know when you find it.
The most stable thing that a man can do is to listen to his heart and follow it.
Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become.
But you see people successful soaring by, and you want to soar. But you got to jump.
You gotta find something within. And when you find out what your why is,
You don't see dangling lights again.
people will write one that reads life as
Nothing to reach it.
what you'll realize is that you have greatness within you. What you'll realize is that you're more powerful than you could ever begin
dying. What are you dying to do?
What is your true purpose on this earth?
The two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you learned why.
Alright, that's the first one. Thanks for watching. No discussion. Just go ahead and answer the survey questions. So I thought that was super awesome last time, and we kind of had like...
I'm not gonna stop this. It's gonna keep going.
Okay.
Where'd you post it? The Hangout?
I emailed it to you guys.
We're gonna answer these one at a time.
Yeah, there's two... Well, no, there's 2 questions for each video.
I'm really looking forward to this survey, doing the video.
Dude, this is how I roll, man. I like doing it this way. I think it's really interesting to kind of like... I don't know. It worked out last time. And my phone has not gotten data hardly at all lately. It's really annoying.
Alright.
Okay, I already know what it is, so I'll just play the second video and then... come on, iPad. Copy.
Was it still raining?
Hmm?
Was it still raining?
Is that your beer, Matt?
This one, yes.
One teetering on the edge of existence.
It cannot possibly be more on the corner.
Hey guys, it's fine.
It could possibly be a little more on the corner.
Density scanner, how about that?
Doug, what was the password?
Pink Planet 466.
Oh, okay.
That's a cool court.
Yeah. I don't know, you'll probably be about as good as I was. That's kind of the way it works, and I was below average. So you'll probably ultimately rank somewhere around there, so really, you'll excel at a lot of things, just not this. I don't want you out here shooting this ball around all day and night, all right? All right? Good. Somebody tell you you can't do something. Not even me. Alright? You got a dream, you gotta protect it. People can't do something themselves, they want to tell you you can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period.
All right.
We're watching the Rocky Balboa one too?
Nope.
Oh.
That's done.
Alright, when we gonna go sell a phone?
Done with the Chromecast.
Can we watch V for Vendetta?
Oh, that's a stupid movie.
No, wait. You bite your tongue.
It's on Netflix, right?
Yes.
I
It's
just
one of my
watched it.
favorite movies.
What
That-
did you do with all your movies?
That speed. They're,
I like V for Vendetta a lot.
Under the Cabinet?
yeah. So we don't really watch them. We have like 2 Disney movies upstairs, like little. Cut some. Thanks for the
I like
roaster
his-
booster.
I like his voice.
Yeah, he's Agent Smith
Is that who it is?
in The Matrix.
I didn't
He's
know that.
also
I recognized it.
the guy in
Elrond?
Lord of the Rings.
He's not a very good Elrond.
L. Ron Hubbard.
Hold on. All right, so on the first one, and this kind of winds up where I thought we might be.
Read it out.
Totally split. Exactly. Nice. Okay. So on the first one, did you enjoy the first video? Did you find it inspirational? We have a yes, absolutely, a yes, somewhat, a I'm neutral on it, and a not at all, which is super interesting again.
I don't remember what I put.
So the first,
I really don't.
Yes, you do.
That's the problem with the survey. I was trying to remember what I put too.
I legitimately don't.
the video was basically a lot of. I mean, if I could sum up the first video in 2 words, it would be self-actualization. You know, it's like within you is both the knowledge of what you should truly do and the ability to do it, no matter how crazy it might seem or how far away it might seem.
What did you put, Tim?
I put yes, absolutely.
It did inspire you or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What did you put?
I put not at all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Because I was indifferent, basically.
Okay.
Well, then I put the other one.
So you put yes, somewhat.
Yes, somewhat.
Yeah, somewhat.
Huh. Interesting.
Why? Wait, why? Why do you say huh? You didn't expect that from me?
I thought you would be the yes, absolutely, for sure.
That was Tim.
Yeah, I was surprised that Tim was in it. I thought Tim was going to be the I'm neutral on it.
I can be inspired pretty easily.
Really?
Yeah.
See, and I guess, and you guys can probably kind of get at the whole topic of this for tonight, but the topic, I mean, this video, the first video I was presented to at my work is a way to encourage us to engage in the company and find our career path and make sure we're doing what we really want to do.
Ooh, now see, the thing is though, let's be careful, like, if I would have watched the video in that context, I might have put it, like, at the very bottom. I would have been like, okay, this is really manipulative. Like,
okay, well, but I think, I don't think I would have liked it either way, because I think I seriously question
the truth.
The truth behind self-actualization and what we have in us is whether or not it's even worth following.
But you didn't ask that question.
I'm just saying why I put not at all.
Yeah.
But anyways, but I guess we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves.
True, but I answered the question that you asked. Not if I thought it was true.
What was the question?
Really? So you can find it inspirational even if you don't believe it?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I should have maybe phrased it differently then.
Yeah, because there's...
Okay, well, let's look at the second one.
Well, let's finish that, right? I mean, isn't that interesting? Don't we want to discuss why that is?
Sure.
It's like, you guys remember those home rebuilding shows? They would like send this military family to Disneyland or whatever and then completely revamp their house or
Extreme
whatever.
home makeover.
Yeah. And it was the most like manipulative in a good way, I guess, if you want to say that. That like at the end they had the acoustic guitar with the uplifting piano and the synth music that just swelled like right at the moment and then just boom showed you like
there was always a family
people bawling and breaking down like hardcore, and
there was always a family that had like some hardship of some sort.
Absolutely, like paralyzed kid or a war vet with prosthetics or something. Like they know what they're doing. You know that they're editing that. You know that they added that music because they're like, oh man, they're gonna freaking cry all over the place, and
but you still fall for it.
But you still can't help yourself from feeling that, right? Like, there's a place for letting yourself be swept up in something. So there's a spot for, it's manipulation. It's propaganda. That doesn't mean that it can't still inspire. Right? Like Michael Bay movies can still be interesting and entertaining even if they're garbage.
Easy.
Hold on. Now, I was with you. I was tracking. Now you've gone off.
like even the Michael Bay movie, I want to see Turtles too.
Yeah.
Like, they put Bebop and freaking Rocksteady in there. They are recreating the toys that I had. That's a different level of nostalgia. And even if it's produced by Michael Bay, and even if I'm going to hate so much of it, I'm still going to love a lot of it. And I just think that video kind of did the same thing, where Tim can be inspired by it, even if he doesn't believe a word of it. Like,
it's all crap.
Those were great quotes, right? But if you scratch the surface of a lot of those quotes, you're like, what are you actually saying, right? Like, isn't there a word for a sentence that is grammatically correct but actually is nonsensical? There's
probably
there's a concept of that. Like, that's the kind of, they're Yogi Berra isms as well. So I see how that was there. Was that missing the point of the question you were trying to ask?
Not really. I mean, I was really just curious about what you guys thought of it.
Okay.
Like, what your gut reactions would be. There wasn't really anything else behind that. On the second question, do you agree with the first video? Would you recommend it? We got, yes, I would consider it, and I'm not sure. Split, even.
So I was actually significantly lower on that one. Mm-hmm. I went down to I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because
I said there's two I'm not sure's, right?
I said I would consider it.
Yeah, there's two I would consider it and two I'm not sure's.
So why did you go higher? Why did you go higher on your second one than on your...
Well, because I know that for some people that, it can be inspirational. Just because I didn't find it inspirational.
That's super funny. You and I flipped on that. Because for me, it was like, this is going to be really lame to a lot of people. Like, I had the exact opposite. Like, I wouldn't want to push this on people.
Well, I mean... yeah, I mean, but it didn't do a single thing for me. I mean, the most I got out of watching that video was like, oh, I want to go watch Goal again. Because that was such a great movie.
I saw that too. Yeah.
I wanted to watch Whiplash.
I do too. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of movies in there that I want to see, but or I want to watch again. So it didn't inspire me because I knew, I've seen all the movies. I've seen, I know what's going on, but things like that don't really inspire me to go out and what am I going to go out and do? I'm 36 years old. I'm not becoming president. I'm not going to play, all the things that I would have loved to have done with my life, whether it be like play soccer or, that
was Michael Bay movie.
Being a Michael Bay movie or whatever. Not going to happen. Just, one, I don't have the physical ability to play soccer at that level. I'm too old.
You're about to give a George Costanza speech. I'm 40, I'm unemployed, I live with my parents.
In theory.
I mean, come on, Jerry. What do I got going for me?
I am living in a hotel right now. Did you unmute us, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, because
Your has-been.
Yeah. I'm more grounded in the fact that, I specifically know what I am supposed to be doing with my life right now. So... I don't need inspiration to, I love my job. I love what I'm doing. I enjoy getting up and going to work. I love my family, and, I feel like I've, tapped into what God had planned for me. So I have no reason to be inspired to be all that I can be, or whatever. But that doesn't mean there aren't other people out there that
So it's
can't
interesting
be.
that you say that. It's interesting you have a difference between you've tapped into what God had for you, but that's somehow different and potentially less than all you could be. It's interesting that you said it like that.
Well, I don't know what all I could have been. I mean, yeah, could I have been a lawyer? Maybe. I don't know. I hated school, so probably not. Mm-hmm. The things I wanted to do when I was a kid was be a lawyer, play soccer, or be a vet. 2 of the 3 required a tremendous amount of school, which I was okay at, but I hated every minute of it. And the other one required a physical ability that I didn't have. I mean, I was okay, but like, you're not gonna see me play in the NBA. You know, like, I'm not tall enough. You know, and I'm not tall enough to play defender. I'm not fast enough to play forward. You know, and I'm not. I don't have the ball skill and control to play in the midfield. You know, so, and I'm definitely not tall enough to be a goalie. So I know my limitations.
Yeah. Moving on to the second video. Did you agree with the second video? We've had 2 yes absolutely, 1 yes mostly, and 1 not all of it. So definitely more positive in the second one, which was interesting because I feel like the first and second one are super, super similar and maybe even the same, but the second one is framed in this American dream. You can be the small guy and pull yourself up from the bootstraps. Like, you can improve your economic situation, kind of way. And I think but it feels more right, even though I think it's essentially the same idea underneath both of them, that you can just, it's in you somewhere. You just got to believe and try, and you'll achieve it.
One's a positive direction, one's a negative direction. They're coming from different angles. So I was at the top because I firmly believe that, and it's all that one line that Will Smith says of, don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't do something. Not even me. And that is wholly different than you can do anything that you want. It seems like it's not, but it is, because one is saying, like, be comfortable in pursuing your dreams and the things that God has. This is me projecting my own interpretation of it, but be comfortable in yourself and in following the things that God presses on your heart, and don't let anyone slow you down. Like, don't let anyone tell you not to do that.
Because the first time you said that, you said your dreams, and then the second time you said the things God presses on your heart. So You're saying that the dreams that we have and, like, the passions in us, God's pressing in on us?
I would make the argument. I don't think that's what that video is saying, but I would agree with Doug. Like, the reason I'm inspired by that is because I would put that interpretation on it as well. Like, because I think there's a part of that that's what you were saying, which is self-actualization. But the reason to me that is inspiring is because there is something in there that is true, and that's the part that is actually from God. Like, there's a series called Dream Giver, which kind of walks through, like, the Joseph story. It has a series of things, and it's like a lot of principles that are very much like kind of that video, you know, just talking about how, I don't know, I mean, basically God lays dreams on people's hearts, like he lays visions. I mean, the whole thing about, like, how irritating was Joseph when he told his brothers that he was the sun and they were just the moon and the stars, and you know, they were all had their wheat stalks bowing down to him. I mean, that was super out there stuff. So I guess I think there's an element to the first video and the second video that's true, which is...
But so you guys think that people, though, like the dreams and the things that they want to accomplish are... I mean, that to me, that Joseph story is you know, a very unique example. I mean, you think that the things that God puts on people's heart in general or the things that people have in their hearts in general are things that God put them there and that they should just follow? Like, you get, like, follow your heart and you'll wind up doing what?
I think it's both.
To a certain extent. Like,
I mean... Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I think if you are in touch and with your relationship with Christ, that God will give you the desires of your heart. But I think your heart's going to change as you grow. So your heart's desires and your dreams and your aspirations will change throughout your life as you come closer to Christ.
So, I mean, I think what would be interesting is if we talked about our dreams. Like, I mean, for a large part of my life, like, something that I don't know if I would say it's like a dream, but I would say there's a really interesting sermon by Bill Hybels from Saddleback, actually, where he talks about, we might have actually watched that in this group. He talks about, like, when God gives you something that just drives you insane, like, it's like your, he has a word for it, I don't remember what it is, but it's not so much a dream as it is, like, a point of pain for you. Like, it's something that's happening in the world that you can't stand. Like, for some people, it's abortion, or for other people, it's, like, poverty, and for some people, it's, like, the environment. But there's, like, this thing, and like, you just can't stand it, you know? And that thing that negative thing can become part of your dream, because you're just like, I can't watch this just keep happening and not, even if I can't fix it, like, I can't just not do anything about it, you know? And so there's several things in my life, like, that I can't do anything about right now, but they're things that drive me crazy. I mean, like, and one of those things, and you guys are going to be like, well, that's weird, like, I can't believe Tim thinks about that all the time, but, I don't know, like the plight of undeveloped countries versus developing countries. Like, it's just a constant theme. Like, I study history, like, I do a lot of reading up on other countries, like, the way America and, like, other developed countries, like, take advantage of developing countries. Like, that's one of those things, like, that just, it really irks me. And so it's like, do I think that that's something that, like, for me, that's something that God has put in my heart. Like, because I've had it for a really long time, like, for, like I said, probably 10, 20 years. It's something that's just, like, irritated me, or just, like, I just don't like it. So for me, like, that's a passion that I feel like God's put in my heart. And because it's not anything that's, like, it doesn't help me in any way to go, like, try to help out on that. It's not like I don't get any I mean, I guess I could find some sort of personal glory in it some way, but, like, as a whole, like, it's not going to make my life, like, more convenient or, like, more comfortable by being concerned about that. If anything, like, the opposite is true. Like, it's just going to make my life worse and more difficult to be even thinking about trying to help out with something like that, right? So, I mean, I guess I feel like that's, like, you know, I can't really weigh necessarily, like, if that's something that God's given me, but on, you know, it seems different than, like, I want to be sales director and make $200,000 a year as well.
Yeah, I see. So, has anyone seen the movie Amadeus? It's about Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Mm-hmm. Dramatization, obviously. I think it came out like in 88 or something. It's also on Netflix. I highly recommend it. It's a very long movie. So the what's the punchline here? So there was a guy who grew up, not Mozart, this other guy, Signieri or something, I can't remember his name, but he grew up in, like, Vienna and was the son of a court musician and was basically just his entire, or no, he wasn't. He was Italian, I think. But it doesn't matter. He wasn't handed any musical anything. He just had this passion and, like, came from nothing. Came from, like, a farmer in Italy, you know, his parents were farmers or whatever, and worked his way up to become a court musician and stuff, and then ended up working with Mozart, who was this, like, naturally gifted kid who, you know, at the age of 5 was performing and was writing these things that were just so far and above anything that he had ever done. And he had made this pledge with God, like, I'll give you my chastity if, you know, you make me, like, give me music, right? And so this whole thing happens, and he's instrumental in Mozart's death, and then he's, like, trying to kill himself for it later because of the guilt, and somebody's talking to him about it. This is the beginning of the movie. Somebody's talking to him about it, and he's like, it was just so, I don't remember the word that he used, but messed up, it's my phrasing, that God put this passion on my heart for music, and then put me in that scenario of having to watch one of the most genius people just come up and like piss it away in front of him as he's like devoting his entire existence to being good at this thing, and the best that he can achieve is mediocre. But the point is that doesn't stop him. Like he doesn't just throw in the towel and be like, well, this guy's so much better, like this is clearly not the road for me. Like he had been given this passion from God, and I think that...
So you think his passion for music was from God?
Yeah, because I have a passion for music that I can't quiet. Like, I just can't quiet it, no matter what. Like...
But does that mean, like, any passion that you have is from God? Like, don't we have passions for things that are horrible?
Yeah.
Passion to dominate other people, to be looked upon as something great. You know, I mean, you could sexual passion.
I
didn't
think
that
sexual passion.
But aren't those things like easy to classify? I mean, isn't it easy to classify passions that are evil versus passions that are good for the most part?
Not in this particular case, and this is why I brought it up, because at least in my life, and well, go ahead and finish, Doug. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, I mean, you can be passionate in good things for the wrong reasons. Like, it comes back to your heart. Like, when I was going through my membership interview at Redeemer, they were talking about heart idols, which I don't know if you guys, do you understand that language? Mm-mm. No?
I'm not gonna guess, but you should.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's idols of the heart. So, power and wealth, influence. I don't remember what they all were, but so the example, because I had never heard that until that interview, and so the example that he gave me was, there was a guy who was a non-Christian, like went to college, had a whole bunch of sex, and like domineered over these women, and just, you know, once he conquered them by having sex with them, he like was done with them, and he moved on to the next one, and on and on and on, and then he becomes a Christian and joins the church, and then finds this group, and then quickly rises to the top of the ranking of this group, and then starts owning everything in the group and trying to control everything. And he had this he had a heart idol of control and power, something like that. And so even though he was like being very influential in his church, in the group in the church, and doing great things, and it seemed like he was just passionate about it, he was actually doing it for a deep-seated bad reason. And so, yeah, we absolutely have to be cautious of those things. And I think the conscious of us try to be conscious of that stuff. But there are some things that, like, it's just not convenient for me to like anymore, I guess. Like, to like music to the degree that I do, and like having this desire that will not go away for wanting to go see concerts and all this other stuff, like, that's not convenient. That's not something that I can share with her in very easily at the moment because of schedules and just all this other stuff. Like, that feels like a passion that was given to me rather than one that I generated. Does that make sense?
Yeah, somewhat, I guess.
I want to hear what you think about it, though. Like, you're definitely, sounds like you have different thoughts about it than we do, so I want to hear kind of what you think about it.
Well, I guess I've just always been someone that's tried to get ahead, you know. In school, you know, I always worked jobs and was real involved with politics and tried to make connections, get ahead there. And then right after school, started a company when I was in Budapest, and did that for a couple of years, and then wrapped that up and started another company right away. And so there's always been my actual work, my job that I have to do, and then trying to get something together that could, maybe turn into something bigger. And I always kind of construed it to myself as kind of like that second video that, you know what, if you work hard, you can get ahead, you can build for yourself a better life. And I don't feel that it's necessarily based in sin. I don't think it's something that's like a lust for money or a lust for power or the desire that people know that I'm successful or anything like that. But I've just always been someone that's really motivated, and I don't want to, if I can do more, then I want to do it. And if I wasn't having these side projects, I'd work harder at my normal job and like try to climb the ranks there, because I've just always been motivated, and I just am. But then I've always kind of thought in the back of my mind, like, our society glorifies entrepreneurs, and there's a lot of voices that'll tell you that that's great, you're motivated, like keep going out, you're on the right path, but it doesn't have any kingdom consequence at all whether or not I ever am able to start a successful business. And that motivation, which is just a drive within me, like, am I withholding from God that I choose to spend extra hours working on these projects which are worldly in nature? Is there any room for self-actualization in a Christian's life? Is it, even if you've searched your heart and you don't believe that you're seeking something sinful, is the mere fact that it's worldly make it of no value, or make it of something that maybe you shouldn't even do? I mean, if Christ is the ultimate, then you know what I mean? Like, it's just always been this thing where I've always kind of just wondered to myself, like, I spent a lot of time on this, and I've spent a lot of time on it ever since I was a teenager, so 10 years now. And maybe... And I've always kind of rested in those videos, like the first one, the second one, like, yeah, like the American dream, like, this is what it's all about. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get ahead, and it's going to be awesome, and I'm going to be proud of myself that I could do it. But is that Christian, Is that even...
It is,
so long as something that should be there.
So long as you're not placing your identity in it, sure. And so long as you're not using it as an idol, like, if you're not... Like, so the litmus test that I've always heard is, imagine it failing miserably and you just stopping. Like, how does that make you feel? Like, would you still be fine? Would your heart still be okay?
But then I do that on you. So imagine if you, for whatever reason, could no longer listen to music or attend concerts.
Which is where I'm at.
Are you okay with that? Do you feel
No,
fine?
I'm stirred.
So then is your passion for concerts and music not of God and of a sinful origin?
Well, but the difference is that I am doing that. So,
it's not a very good litmus test if you can say, yes, it stirs me, but...
Well, it's just meant to be a litmus test. It's not a full analytical test. It's alright, but that's the whole point.
I thought you had a good counterpoint.
You do have a good counterpoint, but I guess what I'm saying is, like, I haven't been to a concert in a year and a half, if not 2. Like, I haven't been living that lifestyle, and I've been wanting to for a long time, but I'm still fine without it. But I know that it's something that I enjoy in a healthy way that I'm just not able to do at the moment.
So I think...
Whereas you're still doing it. You're still doing your stuff.
But I think...
And you're questioning whether or not you should continue to do that stuff. And
but I don't think I would... I mean, it wouldn't end me not to do it. I could easily not do it, I think. I mean, I don't think it would... I don't think I'm so wrapped up into it that, it's like a... I don't know, a compulsive thing or anything like that. But I know if I wasn't doing it, like you're saying, I'd still be wanting something more, something that I'm pushing for and striving for.
And I think I think that that's fine. If your wife is fine with it, if your friends and other family are fine with it, if it's not making you sacrifice any time.
But the problem is it's something that I picked out. It's an idea that I picked out. And as a Christian, I mean, is there room for that to, because it's like
there's only room for that.
But God but Christ gave us so many directives and so many things to work for. And is there any room for a Christian to just say, well, yeah, there's all this need at church, or there's all this need that, you know, all these things that you could be pushing your energy into, but I'm just gonna go after this thing that I think is really cool.
I mean, who's to say that you're not going to reach anyone through your hard work in your avenue?
But that's kind of counting on their somehow, without intending to, reaching this fringe benefit. Wouldn't it be much more straightforward to go after something that is going to have concrete benefit for sure?
I think
yes.
I think like if he's asking us these questions, like, I mean, I think your defense of his actions is good, but like, if you're feeling guilty about it, then like, you might be right? Like, I don't think, there's no way, the answer is not simple enough for like us to definitively say like if you should be doing it or should not be doing it. Like, it's not that straightforward. Like, that's not the way it works. Like, because your walk with God is between you and God. And this is kind of a cop-out answer, so I don't like giving it. Because it's easy to say, but like...
But I think that you need to hear that it's okay to not be doing something in the church or mission field.
It is okay, but it comes just back to what you said in the original place, which is like, it just depends on your heart. Like, are you building your kingdom, or are you building God's kingdom? Like, that's really what it comes down to. Like, if you're building your kingdom, and if it's about you making more money, even if it's not about the money, like, I don't know what your real motivations are. If it's just like, I mean, you're a lot like me, actually. Like, it's really hard for me to do anything that isn't working. Like, yeah. Like, I'm not really very good at relaxing, actually. Like, yeah. I go home and I'm either working on the house, I'm working on my side job, or I'm working for my real job. Yeah. But firstborn children that's like across the board, statistically, that's how firstborn children are. Yeah. So there's certain things there that are just your personality. Yeah. There's certain things there where you are falling into a self-actualization, like an ego. Like, every man, like, if you read Dale Carnegie's series on like how you talk to people, like, every person has a desire to be important. Sure. And so, I mean, there's part of it that is that temptation, and then there probably is part of it in there that's like very God-given. Like, is it better for you to work on your business, or is it better for you to watch TV? Like, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, what else are you going to do with your time? You know, is it better for you to work on your business, or is it better for you to spend your time with your son? Well, I mean, that's kind of a different choice than the choice between working on your business and, you know, watching a movie or playing video games. Like, but, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess, after having said all of that, the problem is that, like, I don't feel like we can give you a very good answer, because it really comes down to, like, what's the Holy Spirit, like, telling you? Like, and if it's pulling on your heart, like, the way you're fighting us on it is, like, yeah, you probably should be feeling guilty about it. Like, it probably is just you trying to make more money, or, like, building your own kingdom, or just trying to make yourself more awesome.
But it also sounds like you're falling into a similar pitfall that I fall into, which is the analytical side takes over, and you hear these people, you hear these sermons, or you read books, or wherever you get it from. But like, for me, it's sermons usually, and it's typically like pastors trying to instill some form of action upon the congregation to get them to stop being lazy, right? Yeah. They need volunteers or something. And that's, you know, not to say that, not to bash on them, but like, there is people who are just sedentary and that are perfectly fine with being sedentary, and that it's not necessarily the right thing. Or their whole identity is built up in this world. You know, the whole point of the pastor is to kind of present extremes to knock some sense into us and whatnot. But to me, and probably you, who are very analytical and aware of what they're saying, like, it ends up, for me, I walk out of that place like everything I've ever done is wrong, and which, you know, part of that's good. That's why we need Jesus, right?
Yeah.
So it always points me back to him, which is great. But at the same time, then it's like, well, you shouldn't be worried about the things of this world because we need to build up our treasures in heaven, and that sort of thing. And so it has me hypersensitive to the things of this world.
Yeah.
And not to put my faith or trust or enjoyment or anything in the things of this world, because they'll fade away, and go to the solid foundation, right? And so if you actually take that stuff at the face value that is presented, you shouldn't be doing anything ever except for like missions work.
Yeah.
Or volunteering for a church. Like, those are literally the only things that they say, this is good, you can do it as much as you possibly can.
Like monks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like...
There were the guys who would stand on a pole for like 15 years.
Oh, man.
Like the ascetics of like the, early centuries. I don't know if you guys ever read about that.
I haven't.
They lived like the entire life like on top of a pillar, like a foot by a foot or something,
You're the history buff here, not us.
No.
So I guess my point is that it's good that you're analyzing those things in your life, but hear me when I say that it's okay to not be working for a church or in the missions field. Like, there are more opportunities in this life to do God's work, and it doesn't necessarily have to go through a quote Christian organization to do so.
What is it? I mean, just like and I appreciate both of your guys' thoughts. I mean, that's two sides that I needed to hear. But even moving beyond, my personal story, just in general, it seems, I don't know, odd for me to think that, and maybe I'm just limited, but it seems odd for me to think that, when you read about like how the early church was and how Paul was and how it just seems like it was such a consuming thing. It seems weird to me that, people would just have, strong desire to, I don't know, be a farmer or something, and it doesn't really affect too much that we can tell, and they kind of come and go, and that's what God wanted them to do. I don't know. I mean, it just doesn't seem, and maybe that's it. That really is how it is, and God still creates people and just says that, okay, I want you to just
but I mean, all the stories are
thing or whatever. But
I mean, all the stories are about the people who got sent. I mean,
yeah, I guess that's
all
true.
all those churches had people who stayed and worked their jobs and supported all those missionaries.
Yeah.
I mean, and they don't ever talk about this, but Jesus' ministry was mostly funded by, like, they think like a lot of wealthy widowers, like whose husbands had died, and like I'm not sure where they get that from, but like based on the type of women who would go around with him and stuff.
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, Jesus still ate, like, based on somebody buying him food, right? Like,
it was Jesus. He could have just.
He could have, but he didn't.
The fish and the loaves thing.
Yeah, I mean, he could, but he didn't. Like, he still, because I mean, you can kind of derive that indirectly through various stories, but like Judas kept their money.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
He kept the money from the ministry, like the people were donating money from him.
Yeah.
And so like people were supporting him, people were supporting Paul. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a tendency to kind of, I don't know. I mean, glorify the kind of super Christian that's in the story. I mean, we have a tendency to do that in all the stories. I mean, I think that's really the danger of this kind of a video, actually.
Yeah.
Is because part of it's scriptural and part of it's biblical, but if you think about it, like, I mean, the story of Job, we always look at that story through Job's eyes. Like, we don't look at it through the eyes of his sons and daughters, like the first round.
Yeah.
Like the house fell on him and stuff. I mean, you tend to look at the story through the eyes of the person who's like the hero of the story.
Yeah.
I think what's the letter where it was one of the churches and what Paul finds out that they were selling all their stuff and living like it was the end of days or whatever, because in his previous letter he had written that Jesus was coming back soon, and like be prepared or whatever, and so they like took that more literally and started selling everything and like just kind of living off of other people. And he's like, no, you need to work. That's not what I meant. Like, you just need to be prepared, but that doesn't mean like quit your jobs and whatever. Like, just live like you normally do. But
yeah,
it's one of the epistle letters, I believe. I can't remember.
One of those books, the New Testament.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the later ones. Like, I don't know. I want to say it's like 2 Thessalonians or 2 Timothy or something.
But the point is that there is very much a place for regular people doing their regular things consistently, right? Like, here's a more practical example. If David wasn't a steady, like, whatever, rock, I don't know, however you would say that, like I needed him to be consistent in my life because he helped me figure out God and Jesus. Because I would just come and we would hang out not having anything to do with any of that stuff, and it would get folded in every once in a while.
Yeah.
And he just slow and steady, like, was always, addressing it when it came up, but
he just had to do what he did.
Yeah, he just was steady and consistent.
Yeah.
And he is what he was there, and
he didn't have a high, he didn't have a low.
Like,
he wasn't passionate, but he wasn't downtrodden.
Like, I went and I left, and when I came back, he was there, and we picked up where we left off. Like, I guess what I'm saying is that one of the things I didn't like about that first video is that not everyone is going to be a superstar.
Yeah.
And that needs to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's why I like the second video better.
Yeah.
Because the second video is saying, do what you feel pulled to do, even if it's not being a superstar.
Yeah.
The first one is saying everyone can be a superstar, and I hate that. Like, I hate this millennial persona and mentality that everyone has to do their own branding and be their own superstar with their own YouTube channel, which is ironic. But like, I hate this at the same time. Like, that's like, what have we turned to? It's the age of celebrity, where every person, in order to fit in, needs to be their own form of celebrity and be on all social medias at all times.
And you bring up a really good point for me. Like, maybe the part about the first video that's true is that, like, if Christianity's true and if there really is a God, then, I mean, this is one of those things that's like, it sounds like a fairy tale or it sounds like really cheesy, but I mean, God's love makes you already, like, complete or a superstar or whatever you want to call it. Like, and so nothing the world can tell me needs to change any. Like, I don't need to be the guy on the Goal movie to enjoy soccer and and be fulfilling my life, basically. I don't have to have all the accolades and all that kind of other stuff. So I mean, I think that part of the video is true, and but I think most people don't probably. I think we have to be careful because, like, probably the way you and I see that video is not the way most people see the video. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe that's why I would hesitate to show it to other people. Because I think you're right about, like, the purpose of the video, like the self-actualization stuff.
I think self-actualization is something that's often presented to us. It's kind of like secular society makes that kind of general vague appeal to self-actualization as something we can all kind of agree on. And one thing I didn't bring up yet that I also think about a lot in that topic is just this whole idea that, according to our religion, men are inherently fallen and inherently evil. I mean, Psalms describes our hearts as desperately wicked. And I think that when you try to reach within you and pull something out, there's a really good chance that you're not going to find something that's God-given, but something that comes from a broken and sinful nature.
Yeah, but I feel like if you weigh too heavily on that, like if you, I totally agree with you on the one hand, but like if you believe that about yourself as a believer, then I mean, where does that put you? Like, where does that put your theology? I mean, you pretty much have just said that like I can't trust myself to make any decision now about anything. Like, so where does that leave you? Like, I mean, because as a Christian, like, I have to believe that God is putting things in my heart and things in my conscience that are, some of them might be right and some of them might be wrong. But if I'm going to sit there and be like, oh, all of them are wrong, like...
Well, that's you would never say that all of them are wrong, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that's clearly good, right?
I guess, but like, agreed, but like, how does your statement, or how does your analysis, like, help you determining which is right and which is wrong? I mean...
Well, you've got a whole bunch of stuff that's clearly right, you've got a whole bunch of stuff that's clearly wrong, and you've got this kind of neutral area, which I'm mistrustful of, I guess you could say.
I guess I think there's not that many that are
neutral.
No, I think there's a whole bunch that are neutral. That's what I think the problem is. I don't think there's that many that are just... I think there's more that are clearly wrong, and I think the rest are almost all neutral. Because kind of like Doug says, like, every missionary or every pastor has a temptation at some point to do a worse thing than they ever dreamt they were doing. Like, I mean, every good thing can be turned evil. Like, I mean, there's some evil things that, like, can't be turned for good, but, like, every good thing can be turned insidious, like, in one way or another. Yeah. So, that's why I think there's such a much bigger breadth of, like, neutral things.
Yeah, I think the majority are neutral things. And that's, you know, Tim mentioned it earlier, like, it really comes down to your prayer life and your relationship with God and the Holy Spirit. Like, follow His lead, in a sense. Like, the best thing that you can do is come to terms with it by talking about it with God, and then it'll put it to rest. Yeah, it should.
I think people can. Yeah, I think you can pray about it, and I think kind of like you mentioned, one of you mentioned it before. Like, you get counsel from people. You test it with. I mean, you test things a variety of ways. Didn't we talk about the? Did we talk about the Bereans last time? That
burritos? No.
Oh yeah, we did. We talked about the Bereans. The passage about the Bereans, like they.
What's the Bereans?
It was like a people. It was a group of people that Paul and like Silas or something tried to witness to. You don't remember us talking about that in the podcast last week?
I don't.
Like, it was basically like the Bereans were wise because they didn't just automatically believe what Paul and Silas preached, but they went and investigated it in Scripture. So, and they eventually all believed because they didn't believe right away. They were like a little bit too a little bit too skeptical, basically. But they went and like followed up with like some hardcore research, and then they all believed, basically.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really long-winded rabbit trail. So I didn't mean to get off into. But basically the point is that like there's a variety of ways to test out what you're doing. I mean,
And to go back to the videos, it kind of dawned on me as you guys were talking that I think a big difference between the first and the second is that the first is coming from the inside out, and the second is coming from the outside. So, but in a sense that you need to not care about this world. Like, don't let people in this world or things of this world tell you that you can't do anything. And so it's guard yourself from this world, and it's more in line with be in the world but not of the world.
Yeah.
And the first one is more the American dream to me. And so while the American dream is inspiring on paper, ultimately I feel much more passionate about the second video of we should be comfortable in Christ and not care what anyone else thinks or says or does or anything.
I mean, I don't know. I think I don't disagree with what you're saying. I thought they were both fairly similar, though. I mean, I don't know. Like, at what point do you tell your kid, like, I'm not so sure that the second one was, it was still just as inspiring to me as the first video. It's more like, I don't know if it was any more true than the first video. Because if I tell my kid, like, yeah, it's really hard to be a professional soccer player, which I've already told my kid that. I mean, my oldest son is a really good soccer player, but, like, I haven't told him not to dream, but, I mean, at what point do you tell your kid, like, pragmatically, like, if you're going to set your heart on being a professional soccer player, like, you're going to have to work really, really hard. Like, it's going to be really difficult. It's going to be really competitive. Like, I don't know. I just think both of them are inspiring, and I think both of them have some elements of truth. I think both of them have some things about them that are a little bit silly. So, I don't know.
I mean, I don't think you would ultimately have to tell them. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but
That's a good point.
they could also figure out that a car could hit them in the street. I mean, as a parent, I have a certain obligation. Like,
You just took a left turn.
no, I didn't. I mean,
How didn't you?
That's
We're
an
talking about soccer. You don't have to. You don't have to do what Will Smith did in that thing and said, "Look, I don't have the physical ability. You have my genetics. Therefore, you most likely won't have the physical ability. So you shouldn't even waste your time." Like,
no, you don't have to do what he did for sure.
No,
But by and yeah, I mean, I could just not say anything about it. But
Yeah.
like, my role as a parent is to, I mean, ultimately, like, help my child.
how are
You
you
know.
failing him if he's practicing soccer all the time?
I think you're failing your child if you don't give them some sort of, like, not by telling him necessarily, like, I don't think you have to say anything close to what he said to his son, but if you're letting them think that they can be an astronaut and a lawyer and a professional soccer player and an NBA player, at some point you have to be like, okay, man, like, those are all amazing things, and each one of them, though, is really, really difficult to get to, and you're going to have to probably pick one of the, like, there's just certain, like, I don't know what kind of parent you're going to be, but, like, I can't let my kids just have these dreams that are just going to be shattered someday either, right? Like, I mean,
if they have those dreams, at all, and they actually have them, they will get shattered. Like,
yeah, I know.
And
that's why I'm trying to help them now.
Okay, so what? You want to shatter them early? Like, the
No,
best thing is to
that's-
forget. Like, so I was a kid who had way too many dreams. You can ask a lot of my friends, like, growing up. And one of my friends was like, "You have so many dreams, there's not enough lifetime." And
I was like that too.
yeah, and past tense is the best way to say these things. And I subsequently haven't done any of them. But the point was, you know,
awesome.
Practically speaking, right? Think of this as a project that you're managing. Practically speaking, you have to start somewhere. You have 10 dreams that you want to do. 3. Doesn't matter. 3. Astronaut, lawyer, what was the other one? Soccer player. Okay, you have these 3
Combining
dreams.
David's and
Why are you pointing at me?
Joel's.
Because you said you wanted to be a professional soccer player like Pele.
I never said Pele.
I remember you saying Pele
He's
in my head.
he wasn't good enough.
Anyway, the point is, like, okay, well, each of those take a specific thing. Which one do you want to work on first? And then, you know, they'll start going through them, and then let's say he goes and, like, goes on a roller coaster and realizes, oh, he doesn't like heights or something, and or he doesn't like the loops.
I mean, I think
Astronauts out.
we're potentially saying the same thing. Like, the point is not to be like a Debbie Downer and, like, shatter all their dreams. I mean, the point, though, is that at some point they have to. I mean, what is the slogan? Like, the difference between, you know, a dream and reality is like a plan or something. I don't know. Like, I don't know what there's some catchy project manager slogan,
That
something
should
like
be a
that.
poster.
The point is that, like, it's fine and dandy to have dreams. Like, you should have dreams. It's awesome. Like, I fully believe that, like, the dreams. I've already said, like, I think the reason I think the first and the second videos are inspiring is because I think that dreams are God-given. But, like, I just feel like I wouldn't be setting up my kids for success if I didn't help them navigate that somewhat.
True, but putting limitations on your kids, I mean...
on David's.
I look at my kids.
David, I hate to tell you this, but the soccer thing, it's not going to work out.
You don't know that. I just got a new knee.
Second life.
Yeah. Like, I don't think you need to, like... Your kids are going to learn that all the things that they want to do in life aren't going to be feasible. Like, you don't need to present that option to them. Like, my kids, they come home, you know, or we go somewhere and they're like, oh, I'm going to eat all of my dinner and I'm going to eat all this dessert and then I'm going to have all this other dessert because you said if I finish my dinner that I can have all the dessert. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, you're not going to finish your dinner. There's way too much on your plate. Like, eventually they're going to realize and pick up, like, okay, that was kind of stupid for me to think. You know, they'll pick it up on their own. Like, they have all these grand schemes that I don't have to sit there and tell them, like...
Because then they'd be mad at you.
Yeah. And then it's just like, okay, yeah, you're going to find out that you're not going to be able to do that. You know, or if I tell them, you guys can stay up as late as you want. All right, we're staying up all night long. Mm-hmm. Good luck.
Sure you are.
You know, like, I'm not going to sit there and be like, nope, you're not going to make it past midnight. You know, go for it, buddy. You know, if you think you can do it, do it. You know. And
you let your kids do that?
No, I don't let my kids do that. But if I did...
He does, and then he peeks in and he goes, watch out for the midnight monster.
Yeah.
What?
What kind of crazy parent are you? I'm not listening to anything you say.
No, I'm just saying, like, if I did that, like, I wouldn't... I'm not going to have to tell them... I don't need to sit down and tell them, you're not going to make it past midnight. You know, because maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't think that they will, but, you know, that doesn't mean that they can't think that they can do it.
So I'm not entirely convinced, but you know what? I'm open to the fact that potentially you guys are right.
I don't even remember what we're talking about, so that's
It's a first. It's, you know, maybe a second.
Hey,
and a third.
You'd be surprised.
I mean, I do think though that it's fair to give kids an expectation that. I mean, last night I watched the 30 for 30 on Miami U. Mm-hmm. Have you guys have seen this before?
No,
I have actually. It's like one of the 3 30 for 30s.
It's freaking awesome, really.
It's insane.
It's really insane. I mean, at a certain point, like, though, if they really want to be, you know, if he really wants to be a soccer player, he's going to have to know that he's going to have to work really hard.
And he'll get there.
No, he won't.
Why
he's going to have to start now. Like, I mean, if that's really what he wants to do. So, I mean, I think, again, like, it doesn't come down to ruining their dreams. It comes down to, like, if you really want to do this, like, you need to know what it's going to take. Mm-hmm. Like, and it's going to start now. Like, it's not going to start when you're later on after you've, you know, devoted yourself to video games for the next 6 years.
That's not necessarily true either. I don't believe that. Because, like, look at people like, let's take Joel Embiid, for instance. Like, you can sit there and you can tell your kids, like, if you want to play basketball and you want to play for KU, you got to start now. You got to do it. You've got to do it. Joel Embiid didn't play basketball for the first time until he was 18 or however old he was when he went to the prep school. You know, and he played basketball.
Yeah, but isn't he like 7'2" or 6'10" or?
Yeah, but look how many other 6'10", 7'2" players that are out there that suck compared to him.
Okay, so what exactly are you advising me to do? Let's just clarify.
I'm not advising you to do. You're
advising me to not do anything.
No, I'm advising you to.
You're advising me to not parent them, basically.
No.
Like, don't say anything to them. Just let them do whatever it is that they're going to do.
I advise you to tell your son that it could be hard, yes, but just because, you know, it's going to...
No. If I tell him it could be hard, that would be shattering his dreams.
Maybe it won't be.
Rushing him.
You don't know. Maybe it won't be.
Would it really?
That's what I'm asking.
He's putting words in David's mouth.
But that's pretty much...
Not if you say it will be hard. Like, that's a statement of fact. If you say, it's not possible for you...
Oh, I would never say that.
Unless you start now.
Oh, I would never say that.
Like,
Unless he would start now, it won't be possible unless he would start now. It's pretty close to what you said.
Yeah, but I would never be that like definitive with him. I mean,
so you talk a big game here.
I mean, he's how old?
9.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could safely say that it's hard, and then just let him go. Like, what you don't want to do is be like, it's hard, here's how hard it is. If you were going to do it, you have to do this, and then this, and then this, and you got to run 6 miles a day and do, like, I don't know what it would take to do that.
It's 10, but yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean,
that's probably right, though.
I'm sure that
like
that
you
is
guys,
right.
you guys are you're cherry picking examples of athletes who are phenomenally talented.
But we don't know if your kid's phenomenally talented or not.
Yeah, well, he's not.
Okay, but you don't know if he's marginally talented. He could still.
But I think you guys are I think you're missing the point a little bit. Like,
no, because
the point is not for us to grade like his talent.
I know that it's not, but what I'm saying is that your qualification of what you believe he wants, which is to be like a soccer superstar, if that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Your belief is that he would have to go through these very, very difficult things and have to devote his life to it, starting now. And I think what we're trying to say is that there's a potential, there is a distinct possibility that if he puts in marginal effort and is a marginal athlete, that he could be a marginal player on a professional team and still accomplish that goal without...
That is highly, highly statistically improbable.
Yeah, that's super improbable.
How is that improbable?
A marginal player on a professional team?
Yeah.
Do you know, like...
A non-superstar player on a team. How is that? How?
Dude, those guys don't look like incredible athletes because they're up against just freaks of nature. But they still like work in like it's insane the amount of work and like conditioning you have to be.
Not when you're 9. Not when you're 9.
You should see the number of 9-year-olds in Kansas City who are. My son's really good at soccer.
Mm-hmm.
The number of 9-year-olds in Kansas City who are better than just in Kansas City who are better than my son is probably like, I don't know, in the 5,000 to 10,000 range. Sure. I mean, like,
and
so
of those, how many do you think have the dream to continue on?
All of them.
And furthermore,
every one of them would say they do. Now, how many of them actually really do, or like how many of them
that
are
was
prepared?
My question.
Like how many of them are prepared to work hard enough to have it?
Right.
Like, 0.1%.
Exactly.
But the point is though
that needs to be his choice. That's all David and I are saying is that needs to be his choice. Like, your job as a parent is not to find out what your kid wants at 9 and then enforce what it would take in order for him to accomplish.
Oh, I totally agree.
So
I think we're actually probably on the same page here, and we probably beat this with a stick long enough. But I think the point is like I think our execution of this is probably different. But my kids are a lot older than yours too, so.
Well, I don't have kids. So
not a lot older. Some of them are, but I mean, my oldest is.
Well, my kids are a lot older than yours because you don't have any.
So, I got half of them.
Maybe
sitting right here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with what you guys are saying. I mean, and actually, like, going back to what I said, I think I would probably, you might be right. Like, I probably need to temper. I need to be careful about not, like, dampening it too much. But I still maintain that, like, it's only fair, the advantage that they're going to have over other kids is that I am their parent, and I'm willing to tell them, like, this is what it would take for you to do this. Like, if I don't do those type of things, then, in my view, I would be doing a lousy job of being a parent because I hadn't told them, matter-of-factly, like, this is what this would take if you want to do it. So, I don't know. Matt, any feedback? You got a ways to go with Benny, so, you can decide now if you want him to be a nuclear biologist or,
Yeah, no, we haven't gotten...
quantum astronomist or...
We haven't gotten either to that level yet. He doesn't say anything, so there's nothing to say.
I mean... One thing to consider...
But I guess I just will say though this, the only thing I would just kind of wrap up the original topic is, I think probably it is a great question of if it
I guess the thing that ask yourself is, do I feel guilty, and if so, where there's smoke there's fire. So it's probably something to look at. But at the same time, I do maintain that I think people's impulses and desires are less good and God-given than our culture presumes. And I think that people are often encouraged to follow their heart when what their heart wants. And they kind of take that as a blank check for all sorts of stuff that's not good. Which is, I mean, you have my personal situation, but that's the bigger thought of why I don't like, or the first video I straight up don't like. The second video, I'm worried that can be taken as that blank check. That okay, now I'm just gonna go do what I want to do, and maybe that's the delimitator. Maybe there's a big difference between doing what you want to do and doing what was actually put into your heart to do. But I do think that just following what feels good at the time, or what seems good at the time, just seems to be such a recipe for so much of the disaster, so much of the divorce, so much of the broken families, and just abandoning things. And it's like, well, I don't feel this now, and so I'm out. I mean, that's where I trace so much of that back to those two videos and this idea in our culture that like you just gotta follow what's inside of you. Maybe I am. I can't deny. Maybe I can't decide. I can't see clearly if I'm feeling guilty or if I'm just overly cynical about what's inside of, or about the things that drive us. Maybe it's a mixture. I don't know, but
that's why you need to stop watching the YouTube videos and just pray about it. And
for me, yeah, but also in the culture, I mean, you guys seemed more accepting than I was expecting of this idea that like, oh yeah, follow what's in you, and it's God given, or it could be done in a way that is pleasing to God. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying you guys were more open to that, whereas I've always been a bit more suspicious of these lines of thought.
Do you
it
really
seems to lead to so many bad outcomes?
Do you think God cares? Like what you do for a living? I mean, do you think
it's not necessarily? I mean, maybe I did a bad job of conflating the abstract topic I wanted to talk about and my story. Mm-hmm. My story is very much about I want to pursue these business interests and these side projects. Do you think God has a problem with that? Mm-hmm. And I think you guys gave good points. I think I do need to pray about it more, and I think I did come out of it with enough intensity to strongly hint that there's probably some guilt in there, that it's grown into too big of a place in my heart. But if you step back from me and you look more just at this general idea that the videos promote of follow what's inside of you, I was just surprised at the number of comments that were like, oh yeah, probably God put that in there. It could be, and it doesn't have to be about what you do for a living. It could be anything that consumes you, such as music.
I feel like
I've always just been much more distrustful of it, and I see bad fruit coming from it, and maybe I make a false association, but I don't know.
No, I mean, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think you're right. I think there's but I mean, I guess I'm taking it for granted that us in this room, I mean, I'm not taking it for granted because I know it's true, but I'm taking it for granted that we're all Christians, and so we all have a conscience that's God-given, right?
Yeah.
I would not probably, if I was in a room of unbelievers, I wouldn't address this the same way, I don't think, because, I don't know, I mean, I feel because I agree with you, I think the natural heart's tendencies are deceptive and, self-aggregate, whatever the word is, self-glorifying.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I think you can do very simple things though, to analyze it. I mean, starting a business is a very positive thing. Devoting time in your, on the side to getting that done, is not necessarily a bad thing, but overall, what's the fruit of it,
Yeah.
What does it result in?
Yeah.
Does it result in one of my friends, he was a chiropractor, and he started a business, and for a period of 5 years he worked on this business, and every time I talked to him, it was just like, oh, it just needs a little more. Like,
Yeah.
I just need to get it to a little bit further of a place. And he was basically justifying the fact that he was working like 70, 80, 90 hour, like
Crazy weeks.
crazy insane hours. Like, he never saw his kids, like would sleep at his office. And it was always just like, for 5 years, he was just like, just another week away from like making it big.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, for me, like, I didn't fall for it for like 2 seconds. I mean, it was just like, it was so painfully obvious to not just to me, but every one of his friends that he was destroying his life.
Yeah.
And so, and he did, you know, I mean, his family is in pieces now, you know, his marriage didn't work out. Like, he lost his business to bankruptcy and, like, you know, did a bunch of really dishonest things, like, is barred from practicing. Like, I mean, like, every possible thing that could fall apart, fell apart. And, like, he's, you know, he's a very smart guy, and, like, he could have, hopefully he'll never listen to this podcast, but, like, he's a very smart guy. He could have, his business would have worked fine, but it was, like, never enough. It was always, like, and he would always try to justify it by saying, like, oh, if I just get this done, then I can give so much more time to my kids and family. Like, there's 100 ways to justify things.
Yeah.
But it was always wrong. Like, and anybody, and he basically separated himself from all of his friends because every one of his friends would have told him, dude, and I told him at one point, I was like, you've destroyed your life. Like, he ignored me for 5 years, and then it was basically like, came back and asked me like what I thought, and it was like, you kind of destroyed your life. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like, there's what you're gonna have to do now. Like, you're gonna have to do the best you can to follow God and to follow your kids and to try to love them the best you can, but you spent the last 5 years like messing your life up. Like, it's a little bit too late to ask me for advice now. And so, I don't know, man,
Tim's
like...
got a hell of a bedside manner.
Huh?
I said, Tim's got a hell of a bedside manner.
Yeah, it was really hard, man. Like, I was the only one of his friends who showed up to help him move when he was, his wife and his kids left and were...
I think I missed it. Were you there, like, during all this, telling him this? Like, if you don't stop, you're gonna lose all this.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but the thing is like, all of his friends were, but he basically just, like, disconnected from everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he didn't want to talk to us. Like, he didn't want to see us because just seeing us was a reminder that he was doing the wrong thing. And so it's like, I didn't even have to say anything. I mean, nor did any of the other friends in the small group. Like, he didn't want to see us anymore because we were a reminder of the fact that he was doing the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, it was very, like, it was a very hard thing to say to him. But, like, at that point, like, the only way I could love him was by, like, being frank with him, you know? Because he was still deceiving himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he was still blaming her for what happened, like, and the only way to be a friend was to tell him the truth, you know?
That's fair. That's fair.
So, I mean, all of that, like, it was a long story, but, like, I don't know, man. I mean, you can justify anything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think these side projects, I would say these side projects haven't had any impact on, like, my family life. I think I make sure I get at least an hour in with Ben every day, spend a lot of time with Eat It. It's more that, I think probably where the guilt comes in is it's just like, it feels like it's nigh impossible to fit this stuff in and meaningful digging into my relationship with God, you know? It just seems like by the time you get done with work, playing with Ben, putting him down, having a conversation with Eat It, okay, we got 45 minutes left, you know? It just seems like there's just not room for both, you know? Maybe that's probably where the guilt comes in from. But
I know that feeling. I mean, the day is, like, really short.
yeah, it's tough. You know?
Yeah.
It's tough. And I think I do have a tendency to maybe, like, there's a simple reason for these doubts, and then it turns into, like, well, because the American dream is corrupt, you know? Or it could be like, well, maybe you just designate 2 days a week to nothing with the business and only with God. And then that, like, probably that's, like, the only thing that needs to happen, you know? But then, I guess, or just overthink things into processing and, like, well, yeah, of course, because the reason is because I try to self-actualize, and it's bad and blah blah blah.
I don't know, man. I mean, what are you gonna like? I mean, my assumption for you, like maybe this is wrong. Like you have to check your own heart, but like my assumption for you is that if one of your side businesses works out, that it's gonna be a really good thing for you, not only for you and your family, but it's gonna be a really good thing for like the kingdom of God overall. Like I can say that because I trust your stewardship, like over the money. I mean, and people need money. Like missionaries need money. Like people need money. Like so, there's nothing wrong with like being an entrepreneur. But I mean, you have to feel. I mean, it's like at the end of the day, it's like totally between you and God.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe another like test is, what do you hope to accomplish with it? Like, I'm asking rhetorically, so you don't need to answer, but what's your end game? Like, I know that you need to be working, but like, is that the best thing to be working on?
You know what's funny is like, there's not really, the way I always think about it is it's like, I have to work because we have to live, so I might as well just try my hardest, Like, it's not like, oh, I want to, like, I'm desperate to have a bigger house or whatever. It's just like, I just don't see any reason not to try my hardest, That's literally all there is. Like, there's not any grand, like...
I love the fact that nobody's personal space is off subject for...
I offered him...
No.
Wait, you mean about the chips or about what he said?
No. About the chips that he just randomly walks and digs through people's houses, and there's gotta be food around here. So I mean, there's a bowl right here with food in it and chips, and Tim doesn't care. There's gotta be something better. You guys are holding out.
Those are from Trader Joe's. They're all natural.
I didn't want to open one of his bags of chips.
We're trying to get
why? That's why it's there.
Get chips. Aldi has some new kale chips and with lemon, and they're bomb. They're actually really good.
So you were saying something important. Oh, trying your hardest, like no matter what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting though, because why would you be trying your hardest on untested things like starting your own business if you have a job already as well?
Because the job, like, you're just the job is like
you're working for the man.
No, it's not that. It's just it's super capped. Like, I'm always worried that like my boss is gonna send off on these podcasts or something. But like,
I don't think you have to worry about that.
Like at corporations, the reward you get out of a corporation only loosely correlates to the amount you put into it. It does somewhat, but there's a lot of people that like put in tons of hours, but they don't have the right rotations, or they don't have the right connections, they don't get ahead, or that opportunity comes up and you need to move, and so even if you do start to climb, it's not at all on your terms.
Sure.
So, but again, it's just too loosely correlated. Like the amount that you put into your corporate job and the reward that you get out of it it's
you want to be more.
There is some. I guess I don't view starting my own business as any more or less risky as trying to devote tons of time into a corporate job. Because of the corporate job, if I try my darndest to get promoted, I probably could, but on conditions that I couldn't control, such as, okay, well, now you need to move to Zurich, or well, now you need to be in charge of all these people, blah blah blah, and money's not the only parameter, There's also the ability to do what you would like to do.
So is that what that company is, doing what you like to do?
Actually, I do really enjoy it, but it's more about like, okay, I have to try to provide sustenance for my family, so I'm just going to try my hardest at that, and I think it's like the extra effort can go into this side thing, so.
I think your analysis of corporation jobs is just spot on. I think it's it's one of those things you have to like. Yeah, I mean, you haven't worked very long if you don't know that. You know.
But I mean that.
So
that
if you're
comes in trusting in God because, and it comes in as a soul check, because I mean, that's kind of what we talked about a couple of times ago. Where why wouldn't you just put that effort into the job, even if it doesn't pay off? Like that's what you're being paid to do.
Yeah, I remember that.
And you know, God, if God wants you to climb the ladder or whatever, then he'll align all the stars to let you climb. And if not, then you're still getting paid and you're putting in your time. Now, obviously you don't like go above and beyond and kill yourself over it.
I do find it very difficult to. I have a lot of trouble with the balance that you're talking about between like. I have trouble with the balance of being content and being like eager or being discontent in like a good way, like an ambitious way.
Yeah, it's just like wanting to, yeah.
So, I mean, because on the one hand, like I try to be well aware of the fact that like, basically if I don't ever get another promotion, like for the rest of my life, which is pretty unlikely, like if I just stay at the same salary, I never do anything again for the rest of my life, like I'm still in the whatever. I mean, like the 98th percentile of what people make a year.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, other people collect garbage like from the city and turn it into recycling. Like, I mean, like for their entire life, you know, and or have no job whatsoever. You know, they just beg. So like, I mean, you have to be pretty thankful like for whatever job you have.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that should stop you from trying to do better either. I don't know. It's a hard balance.
It's really it's yeah.
If you're willing,
balance is the word.
If you're willing to put it down when needed, I think you're fine doing it. Right? Like, if Edith gets sick, God forbid, or something, and you gotta take care of Ben, if I don't know, just come up with a scenario of the unforeseen, but it requires more of your time, or you know, Ben's in school and starts having soccer practice after, or soccer games, or baseball games, or plays, or you know, whatever, and you know that eats up 3 out of the 5 weeknight evenings. Are you okay with that thing potentially withering and dying, or just not thriving? Like, are you okay with that? And
to that, I can honestly say yes.
Yeah,
I haven't hardly touched it the last weeks because my mom's been in town.
Exactly. So like, if it's a side thing, it's a side thing. Like, I don't think that there's any cause to worry about any of that. You know, like this music.
There's some cause.
What? You're just being difficult.
You just keep trying to like totally let him off the hook. I mean, he needs it's a tough thing. Like he needs to wrestle with it. Don't like give him a scot-free pass. Like.
In this scenario, I think he's just overanalyzing. I think he sees the American dream in society. What harm is he doing right now? What?
I think there's maybe just some opportunity cost. You know, like I think it's a pecking order type thing, right? So if you've got these non-negotiables such as work, and you've got these firm commitments, family, side business, etc. If spending time with God doesn't feature in that totem pole in a high enough place, then it never gets done. You know, so it's not necessarily the thing itself is bad, but the opportunity cost. And I think that's. I know that I really talk about it for a couple hours. I think that's kind of. I don't know. That just seems to resonate right now.
Well, I would agree with that. If you're placing that above things that you shouldn't be placing it above, then absolutely. But the impression.
I don't think you're wrong. I just don't want you to let him off the hook.
Well, the impression that I got was that.
Think about it.
The impression that I got was that he wasn't, and so I don't. If he is satisfying all of those other priorities, and he still has this extra 45 minutes, friggin' do it. Who cares? Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
To me, it just doesn't seem like anything more than at the moment, like a hobby.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like if I, you know, I like making things out of wood, or you know, or working on my house, or whatever, you know. And you know, will I get 2 or 3 nights a week to do that? Maybe, who knows? You know, doesn't make it bad because I do it, you know, for an hour or 2 a night. You know, yours is starting businesses or whatever. You know, like to me, it doesn't really seem like anything more than just a hobby, you know, that you enjoy doing, or Doug listening to music, or, you know, making music, or whatever, you know. Yes, if we put our hobbies, you know, above our family and above our relationship with Christ, problem, you know, but, you know, like, you know, starting a new business or whatever to me is no more than like a hobby per se. I mean, it can develop into something that's a lot bigger, you know, and I think that's what you're hoping for eventually down the line, to like, okay, I got this on my own business, and you know, it worked out great, you know, and then you can quit your other job and run your business, you know. But like,
hey, there's hot dogs or brats in there if you want. I just cooked them tonight. And there's saltines in there too if you want crackers with that. Jeez.
So it's all just semantics, basically. Like, you know.
Extra sharp.
Yeah.
I like to be punched in the face when I eat some cheese.
That's pretty strong stuff.
That's what I love. Alright. What do you think? You have any final things you want to cover?
Nope. This was good.
Okay.
Thanks for muddling through the topic with me, guys.
No, it's good. I like the videos. I like your interaction. You have to send me the links.
I like the survey.
And the survey.
Nice. Good.
Do you want to pray for us and close this out?
Sure.
I'll stop this. Tim ever stops eating.
And I will try, depending on how the rest of my week goes, and when I get back in my house, to have that book done. If I have the opportunity.
I just need to take a break from the topics, because I've been in a men's leadership lab, and I'm getting good material and stuff from it, but I need to focus on it.
Oh, are we talking about what we're doing next week or next?
Well, I said I'll try to get that book done if I'm home, but I don't know.
What better time to read than at the hotel by the pool?
Boom.
Because when I'm by the pool, I don't get to sit by the pool because I have 3 children that want to play.
Not with you. They don't want to play
in the
with
pool
you.
with their father.
He said, "Get out of here, old man."
Yeah.
Don't you have soccer practice to be at? How are you going to be Pele? All right.
I have a better luck of being at Joel Embiid than I do with Pele.
Maybe. Why don't you close this?
Dear Heavenly God, thanks so much for this group and for the chance to talk about these topics. Sometimes things that are very philosophical, and sometimes things that are close to the heart. Lord, I pray for David's house, that they would get that cleared up, and that he could go, him and his family can move back soon. And in the meantime, Lord, I just pray that you give them both patience and help them just kind of deal with being in such a small space. Besides that, Lord, just again, thank you for this group and the chance to just connect and be honest about what's on your heart, and pray that you will bless our conversations in the future. In your holy name, amen.
Amen.